But thank you for being here tonight. My name is Jennifer Hieronyma, and for those of you who are new to us, I know there's some new faces. I am the CEO of the Legacy Center. This is, I don't even know what number this is. We've been doing these town hall meetings for at least 3 years. We try to do them once a month during the school year, except for December, which you can all understand why we wouldn't do that. But these topics come to us from a survey that we usually do with parents every couple of years, saying, okay, you know, what kind of topics would be of interest to you? What challenges do you have with your kids and what's going on in the world today? And so you'll see a variety of topics that we set up here. Just to give you a preview of some of the other town halls, we have scheduled them for the rest of the year. And I just thought I'd run through those with you real quick. On March 4th, we will be having a town hall on vaping. So it's been considered an epidemic. It's skyrocketed in our own town as well. We're still trying to figure out what that really means. But I think there's a lot that the kids know and parents don't know about that. So we had to reschedule that one from a couple weeks ago when Snowmageddon hit. We had about 38 people signed up, so hopefully they'll come back. And if you haven't registered, please do. Another one we have coming up is March 14th. Is that right? 14th? Yep. I have so many dates in my head. March 4th or 14th, we're going to do one. I'm calling it Assets and Youth Programs. Anybody that knows anything about the Legacy Center has probably heard about developmental assets. There are 40 attributes that we believe kids should have in order to be successful. Some of them are internal, so it's kind of how they're raised, that kind of thing. Others are community-based. And so if you have seen the magazine, hopefully most of you as parents get YC Magazine. This is our magazine that comes out quarterly. The center spread of that is all about assets and asset building going on in our community and examples. But what we find is that parents are now kind of on board with this whole concept, but they don't really know where to go to build certain assets in their kids. Where do their kids acquire them? And so we are working very hard on putting together a database that matches local programming across the county with specific assets. So if your child needs to build self-esteem, we're going to have some things that you can specifically do to do that. So we're real excited about that. And Pam Singer, Pam's our research associate. As soon as we see what we have for data, we'll determine exactly what's going to happen at that town hall. So that's coming up on March 14th. And then in April, many of you might have thought we forgot about alcohol. Well, we have not. It's still the leading cause of death for those with substance use disorder. It's something we don't often talk about because it's so ingrained in our society. But it is something that we need to address. April is Alcohol Awareness Month, so we're partnering with Anheuser-Busch to bring in a speaker from, I can't remember exactly where she's from, but they work together to put together a program called Family Talk About Drinking, and she'll give tips and things like that, how to talk to kids at just about any age about that subject. So we're really looking forward to that. And the last one of the year is called How to Parent a College Student. A lot of these also come from personal angst of those of us at the Legacy Center who are parents going, we wish we would have knew that before our kids went to college or did this or whatever. So we're actually bringing in a panel of college students to give us their perspective on what they need from us as parents. It's a very hard transition as we stop taking the driver's seat and jump into the passenger seat for their careers and their lives. So, we're going to have some kids from, I think, Grand Valley, Michigan State, some other colleges, just kind of a variety of different ones. And the idea is not to learn about what college is like at a particular school, but more a big school, a small school, a medium-sized school. What are some things that we as parents kind of need to know? So I think that's going to be a great one, and that is on May 8th. And then we're done for the year because everybody's getting ready for summer. And we'd like spring to get here very soon, just by the way. So I just gave my intro away. Lindsay, can you hand me my phone back? I realize the intro's on that. Thank you. Where did you? So some of you might be aware of Tim Skubick. Tim has been doing the scene in the state of Michigan at the Capitol for how many years, Tim?
50, I think.
50. I thought I had 47 in my mind.
Give or take 10 years.
A long time, a very long time, and I just overheard some folks that listen to his radio program and that kind of thing. I've seen him many times over the years, and I find it just such an interesting topic. He was here at a recent chamber event, but what I charged him with, and he said he was up to the task, were two things that I wanted to come out of this evening. One is, we as parents in this politically charged environment might not always be setting the right example for our kids. It's a real tough time for us, and so we want to talk about how we can do a better job of that. The other part is how, if your child votes against you on certain things, we want to get them politically engaged, and it's really hard as parents sometimes when you know your child's going to vote a different way than you. You know, how do you handle that and still want to encourage them? And I kind of gone through that in the last year myself. So I challenged him with, you know, helping us get our kids politically engaged, but also how can we be good role models in this kind of environment. So with all further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Tim.
Your applause, you haven't seen my act yet, okay? I'm giving you a chance. If you want to leave, now's the time to leave, okay? First of all, thank you for having me in beautiful downtown Midland on this beautiful, pure Michigan night with snow and rain and stuff coming tomorrow. Hang on just a second. I'd like to say hello to my mom and all of my relatives and send money, okay? All right? So tonight our assignment is to get young people involved in politics. Wow. What an assignment. Almost, I'm an optimist by nature, but it's tough. And the toughest part is getting their attention to trying to get them engaged. Can I get an amen from anybody? Amen. Yeah. All right, let's go around. I want to know what age group we're going to be dealing with. So you are here because you have kids at home, yes?
No, my academic background is child development and political science, so I'm just interested in general.
So why don't you take this over and I'll go home, okay? You're here for grandkids.
At least.
Okay, how many you got? 5. What are their ages? You just went to 7? Okay. What are their ages?
Ages in the 30s.
In their 30s. Okay. Aren't they politically involved now?
1 or 2.
Whoa. What are the rest of them doing?
I wish I knew.
Exactly. Good thing you're here. All right, kids?
I teach 8th grade history.
Oh, shall we say a prayer for the show? 8th grade history. Tell me about the enthusiasm, if any, of your students.
They are very enthusiastic.
I don't believe you.
They come to my classroom.
Do I have to?
If you want to see it.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay, but I'm encouraged by that.
We're together, but
Okay.
we do have 2, 17 and 19-year-old. One's at community college, one's senior in high school.
Are they involved?
Yeah, I think so for their age.
Okay, for their age.
Well,
What's
for
the
their age.
qualifier is?
Well, they have an interest.
They have an interest.
And
Well,
they have
that's a
an opinion.
start.
They have an opinion, but I think that's our opinion.
That's more than a start.
Right.
That's okay. If they got an opinion, we're almost there.
Grandchildren.
How old?
I've got one that just graduated from Texas Tech in child development
Whoa.
and education, and one that's just going to start at Texas A&M.
Great, excellent. And how many, what are the ages of the kids again?
15 and 13.
15 and 13,
Dow High School
okay.
in Jefferson, yeah.
Why are you here?
Just to learn something, hopefully. I do have
Emphasis on the word hopefully. You seem exact. Okay, this is going to be very close, but maybe we'll get something out of it. Okay, that's good.
Well, we have 3 children that are grown, but it's interesting when I think about it, our 2 daughters are very politically involved and
Yep.
engaged. Our son is not really.
How old is he?
He's 44.
44. Do we have any hope for this guy at all?
Yeah, I'm working on him, so.
That may be the problem.
No, I don't think so, but, yeah, like my husband said, just to learn, and I think probably what you're gonna tell us is probably gonna be helpful, I'm hoping, by way of communicating with people in general about
Yeah.
politics.
How did you get the girls involved? Was this
They-
through
they-
osmosis or what happened?
No, I think their college experience exposed them to a lot of things that, you know, we really weren't politically involved or,
So you guys take no credit for this at all?
we don't.
You do not?
Well, okay,
They probably got us
they got us
and,
going, but now we've gone so crazy with it that we're getting them more into it than they used to be, so.
All right, that's good. That's a good story. My folks at my MSU people, what are the ages of your kids again?
18 and 23.
15 and 23.
18,
18.
18, 20, 22.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, the 18-year-old is how involved, 10 being just absolutely boffo.
18-year-old, probably 3
He's sleeping most of the
3
time.
on a good day.
on a good day.
Okay,
I have a 19-year-old and a 24-year-old.
okay, all right, so we don't have any preschool problems in here. So my whole seminar that I wrote on preschool, I'm gonna throw out, okay? Now we'll talk about older kids. First of all, there is hope. There is hope, but it starts with you. And I am extremely pleased that you showed up tonight because this is half the battle. Where's the rest of the free world? Okay, but at least you're here. And hopefully tonight I'll be able to share with you some insight as to how we do this. Let me start with a personal story. As we stand here tonight in the beautiful city of Orlando, Florida, there's a young woman by the name of Tim Skubick. Carly is 32 years old. She's in musical theater, which means I'm supporting her for the rest of her life. Joyfully so, all right? Carly's in musical theater, but when she was under the auspices of the Skubick household, we actually sat around the dinner table and we talked about politics. And I loved Carly so much that I made her watch Off the Record. Okay, she said, Daddy, why are you doing this? Don't you love me? And I said, no, I do love you. Wait, you'll figure it out, okay? So we had a discussion. At that time, there was a presidential election going on. And at the dinner table, she proudly announced that she was prepared to vote for Ralph Nader. I made a huge mistake at that moment. That was a teaching moment. I wish I could roll the clock back, because what would I have said to her? Why? Why, Carly? And where did you get that information to come to the conclusion that Ralph Nader would make a good president? But I missed it. I missed it completely. Lesson learned. If your kid brings up anything that has to do with politics, glom onto that like a shark on a piece of red meat, because this is your opportunity to start the dialogue. And what this is all about tonight is trying to either trick your kids into engaging with you, or actually getting them to do it voluntarily, because that's where this magic will happen, hopefully. All right, so the story goes on. Carly goes off to college at the University of Tampa. She calls me on election day. Daddy, guess what I did? What'd you do, sweetheart? I took my roommates to go vote. And I said, thank you, honey, that is great. She said, don't thank me. I said, what do you mean? They voted for the wrong guy. But you get what I'm going for here? That didn't happen because Carly read that someplace that she was supposed to take her roommates to go vote. Her mom and I will take credit of those conversations at the dinner table, which said to her, this stuff is important. If it's important enough to talk to one another over dinner about this, there must be something going on there. And Carly was smart enough to figure it out. Now, she's still politically engaged. During the last election, she was on the phone. We were talking about issues in the whole 9 yards. She's actually thinking about this stuff, but she's 32. But she's not the majority. The people in her peer group, they aren't there. She's trying to convert them, okay? But they aren't there. And even younger, it is tougher. Because part of the reason is, and there are a number of them, but one of the things is what they hear at home. This is where your attitude comes in as to how your kids will view politics. This is about maybe 20 years ago. I was invited to speak to a National Honor Society group at some high school. I can't remember where it was. And in the course of the conversation, I just threw this question out. I said, how many people, there's about 50, 60 of them in the room. I said, how many in here believe that all politicians are crooks? And 90% of the hands went up. 90% of the hands went up. And after that happened, I went home and I said, what the heck was going on there? Where did those kids get that from, that attitude? Where did they get it?
From other politicians.
Mom, no, nice try. They got it from mom and dad, okay? Or they got it from the tube, from the news media, because we're always reporting all this negative behavior of all these politicians. And so they had convictions on this. And I said, you know what? That's not true. I cover politicians every day. Are there some bad apples in the group? You bet there are. But out of the 148 lawmakers, they're not all crooks. Otherwise, I'd be covering them in Jackson Prison. But we're in the state capitol. And the eyes sort of, oh, really? So that's the influence that parents can have on their kids' attitudes before they even got out into the real world to sort of decide for themselves what was going on. And that was 2 strikes against us to begin with. Did you think they were going to go forward and get involved in politics and all of them were crooks? Why would they? They are not motivated enough to say, maybe I can change the system with my activism. They couldn't get there because of the block mentally that was in their heads, thanks to mom and dad. So my wisdom to you, if it's that's too strong a word. Hang on just a second, go ahead, Doug. You got it? Okay, thank you.
Let's see your good side.
Oh, there is no good side. This is the good side, right there. Get a shot of it, okay?
Big smile.
Yes, there we go. Thank you. All right, I'll take a dozen of those. Attitude from parents sets the tone for whether this is important or not. So that's our starting point tonight. Clean up your act. If you've got something bad to say about politics, if you're going to say it, take it as an opportunity to get them to react to what you're saying, rather than just saying all politicians are crooks, or they're all a bunch of idiots, or whatever it is, because that sort of poisons the water. All right, so there is hope through parental involvement to get this stuff done, but the trick here is to get your kids to talk about politics. Talk to me about your 8th graders. How old are they?
13, 14,
13,
15.
okay. What are you studying right now?
Today we talked about the corrupt bargain of John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson and Midland.
Okay, let me just give you an initial reaction to that. Who cares? Why is that important for kids?
To learn that? It's important to learn the history so we don't repeat it and they understand that some of these elections were pretty
Yes.
controversial.
Yeah, okay, I'm not saying you're wrong. I just find that very curious, okay? Because what I've got written down here, I think to start the dialogue with kids, you need to find some stuff that, was it John Quincy Adams?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay. I'm sure that not one of the students went home tonight and told mom and dad that they learned about John Quincy Adams. Is that a fair statement?
They all went home and talked.
Oh, yes. We ought to run you for office. The eternal optimist here. You check tomorrow and ask them in class to raise their hand if they went home and told mom and dad about that.
All right, I will.
Okay, I'm going to guess, if you get 5 hands, take a bow.
Okay.
Okay? And if it's more than that, I obviously don't know what I'm talking about. All right, does anybody think I'm right or wrong? Yeah, John Quincy Adams is not relative to what's going on today, but you still have to teach it. You're right. We need to learn from our mistakes. We don't look enough at history. But here's what I would like to challenge you on. Let's do some problem solving right now. What issues could we talk about as parents with our kids to get them politically involved? What's important to kids in school today?
The wall.
What?
The wall.
The wall.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That's what everything I'm hearing.
Okay. Ma'am, with all due respect, okay? You don't go around your life like this, do you? Huh? You're not in your object, or what is this thing called? iPhone? Okay. All right, so the wall. Okay, I don't like the wall. Give me something else, something closer to the kids. What is affecting kids today? Give me something.
Immigration.
No! God, Jesus.
Snow days.
What?
Snow days.
Snow days? Yeah. What else?
Tuition costs.
Tuition cost? Yes, what else?
Internet access.
Internet access? Come on, give me some more.
Netflix price increase.
No, that's not gonna get it. Do kids, wait a minute, kids don't even know the price went up.
Marijuana. How about that?
What is it?
Marijuana.
Marijuana's not bad. What else? Yes, very good. Give me something else.
Car insurance.
Yes, that's a little up there, but I'll give you that one.
Depends on what age they are.
Yes, absolutely. Come on, give me something. I know you guys.
Social media.
Social media. Come on, what else? Teach.
Well, there's one kid who was talking about the wall, but most of them are talking about superheroes.
About, excuse me?
Superheroes.
Superheroes.
Movies.
Superheroes.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can make something out of superheroes. How about this? There's a bill in Congress to ban the watching of superheroes. Would that get their attention?
Yeah.
Could you have a dialogue on that?
Yeah.
It's not true, but let's try it. We're trying to bring them in under the tent. We'll do anything possible. All right, so here's some stuff I wrote down. And this is where you can start the conversation with the kids on this stuff because it's relevant to their life. Okay, this is stuff that impacts them. That's what you want to touch into, and this is the teaching moment, is once you touch into it, you explain to them in the simplest terms possible why politics can have an impact on that. Are you with me so far? All right, so try this on for size. Time off from school, anything to do with driving, staying on your parents' health care. This is a good one. Tell them they could die if they don't stay on your health care. That always gets their attention, okay? Death is a great behavior modifier. The drinking water in your school. The drinking water in your school. You know, you could be drinking lead in your water. Do you want to be doing that? Because that'll make you sick. How about a little PFAS with your lunch? Huh? That's something that, trust me, they have not thought about, but I think they might be able to relate to that. Hey, Johnny, the next time you go take a drink of water, what if you were drinking lead? Well, Mommy, why is that important? Well, because lead screws up your brain. Let's try it. Sounds like something new, but that's where you can connect with them on issues. Here's some other ones. Being expelled from school. Discipline. Huh? Vaping, you guys got that? The school lunch program. School lunch program. Speed limits in school zones. Huh? Why is that important? Why is that important? Yeah, but what could happen if we got people speeding through the school? Somebody. Mom.
Yeah, someone gets hurt.
Exactly. All right, so the issues are out there. They're very simplistic, but consider the audience we're dealing with, okay? They are predisposed not to engage on politics, but some are, okay? There are some success stories. Tell me why your son is here tonight. Can you tell me that?
He's my friend.
He's your friend. Okay, they're very good. Why? Tell me why you're here tonight.
My mom signed me up.
Precisely, that mean old mother sitting at home, okay? Tell your mother from Tim Skubick, thank you, okay? All right, and you know, we're a half hour into this thing and you're still awake? Give me 5, baby, all right? You're doing good. All right, so once we start this dialogue, where do we take it? First of all, I suggest, and I think this works, but I'm not sure. You're competing for your child's attention, right? There's a billion things going out there, and politics, trust me, is not near the top of the list. There are some kids where it is. You know which kids in your classroom are motivated on this issue, don't you?
Correct.
What percentage out of how many kids in the class?
Well, like a 30 class, so 10%.
10%, okay, and that's about normal, okay? But wouldn't it be great if it was the other way around? That it was 10% that didn't get a hoot and 90% that did. That's what we're shooting for. I trust we're never going to get there. We're never going to get there, but we want to try to get there if we can. All right, so I want you to try this out. And I guess the wall came up. I think this would be the opening to have 15 minutes every week on politics. Don't laugh yet, okay? And you give an assignment to your child to get involved in that. And then you pick a day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever it is, 15 minutes that you sit aside and you have that discussion. And I would start out with just with something very non-controversial. What do you think of Donald Trump? Okay? If you can't get your kid engaged on that, give them up for adoption.
Yeah.
Okay? But they should be thinking about that, right? Okay, so I would start with that. And here's the ground rules. this is your choice. We're looking for positive reinforcement here. If you'll do 15 minutes a week with me on politics, I'll give you a financial stipend, and maybe you can negotiate the number. Or if you come in the back door, you can say, if you don't, I'll take away your social media for a couple of hours. Would that work or not? Just help me out, would it? Okay? No, it would not? Well, you don't care if you lose your social media, right? Okay, but for these kids, this is their life, is it not? I mean, this is what makes them tick. So you know what? Use it. Use it. So we're doing 15 minutes a week to chat about this stuff. Now you've got them engaged in something simple like Mr. Trump. See what they say. Here's a key. Do not, underscore, do not be judgmental. Do not say you were an idiot for saying that. I could have said to Carly, Carly, you are so stupid. Ralph Nader's not ever going to be president of the United States, and here you are voting for this schlub. Would that have turned her off in a nanosecond? Rather, Carly, wow, you're thinking about this guy. A positive reinforcement says, hey, what you're doing is good. Kids, just like us, all love positive reinforcement. I don't think we do enough of that with our kids, to be honest with you. We're always about telling them what they can't do and why they shouldn't do this. Wouldn't it be beautiful if they got a tap on the head and said, hey, that's some great stuff on Donald Trump. Now tell me more. Now, if you get them engaged, it may actually be fun, especially for you, because what do? You get to get inside your kid's head. And good parents do that, and I mean that in a positive way. Some of the most positive conversations Carly and I had was when I drove her to school every morning. I had her for 20 minutes. And after we got done practicing our spelling words, which we did in the car, which she absolutely hated, okay, then we talked. And when I picked her up and brought her home, that's when we talked. Take advantage of those opportunities. They are so precious and few, especially now with this god-awful social media. I have a bias. I think it's the worst invention we ever had. I really do. Because it is, first of all, if you've seen the research, it's changing the wiring in our kids' heads. I read this piece the other day. This is a great example. Kids were watching on social media, putting Legos together, okay? And then the researchers took away the social media screen and they put the kids in front of Legos, thinking, the hypothesis was, they will transfer from what they saw in the video to doing it. And you know what happened? The kids sat there and they looked at it. I wonder what I do with these. So much for the argument that social media is transferable to the real world. It's not. And it is getting inside our kids' heads, and it's making it tough for them to really navigate what's going on. In fact, there's a great book, Death by GP8, what was that? What was you used to find GPS, thank you. I'm an absolute dinosaur. I just got a computer last week, so it worked with me, okay? In fact, if it weren't for my daughter and wife, I'd still be on an Underwood typewriter, which nobody knows. You know what a typewriter is? Do you really? Excellent, okay. Do you know what a typewriter is? What is it? Close enough, that's good, that's good. As soon as you put your hands up there, you're good, okay? So challenge the kids on that, but don't be judgmental. Be positive and reinforce, because you want more of that. The more you could get them engaged and thinking about this stuff, not just reacting, but thinking about it, critical thinking, which is, well, you know what, Mr. Trump has done this and he's done that, and the assignment should be not just what you think about Mr. Trump, but also what do other people think about him, so that you get the brain engaged. So I throw that out as a possibility that you can try or not, but it's one way to get them engaged with either a financial reinforcement and a pat on the head and stuff that makes them feel good about what they're doing. Kids should go with you. Now we got an older audience here. It sounded to me like most of these kids are voting, right? Okay, for the most part, yours aren't, the student sort of thing. But take them with you to go vote. Okay, we took Carly to go vote. It's great fun. Okay, there's a hands-on experience, And this is a little deep, but at some point you need to explain why it is important for people to participate in the democracy. And I have a little story that I share with you. As I go around the state doing the rubber chicken circuit, I get a lot of people, in fact some this morning. I asked them who the lieutenant governor was. And in a crowd of about 80 intelligent people, how many people do you think knew who the LG was?
8 or 10.
Pretty close, pretty close. Who's the lieutenant governor?
Big tall guy, black.
That narrows it down, all the big tall guys. Okay, that's a start. Okay, who's the lieutenant governor? Has no clue. No clue.
I got it.
Wait a minute, no consulting back and forth. You can't be compared. Who's the LG?
Isn't it Gilchrist?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Gilchrist?
Who? Male or female?
Male.
Male. Is he short or tall?
Oh.
Yeah, you knew that from over there. Very good. That's taking the information, putting it in. Okay, Gilchrist. What's his first name? And time's up.
Garland.
Garland. Gilchrist the second, known as the Deuce. That's what they call him, okay? About 12 people out of 70 knew the lieutenant governor in the state of Michigan. It's a teaching moment, because if you don't know who the politicians are, trust me, your kids have no shot at this at all. Zero. Now, it's not important that they know the names, okay? It's much more important that we teach them how to be critical thinkers, but it is an indicator. It is an indicator, because they can find out what the names are, and that's one of the assignments that I would have you give your kids, is one of those 15-minute things. Find out who your local legislator is. Find out who your governor is. Find out the lieutenant governor and have them report back, and don't tell them how to try to find it, okay? Let them figure it out, okay? And hopefully they will. They'll go to their social media, they'll Google it. I don't care how they get it, as long as they get the information. But we got them now thinking about this stuff. So take them to vote. Explain to them that your vote does count. How many elections have there been over the years where 1 or 2 votes decide an outcome? Or the President of the United States, think Florida, think Gore, Bush. Holy cow, what was it, 650 votes? Huh? And the Supreme Court said, stop recounting? I mean, holy mackerel. So your vote does count. But here's the danger if we don't get our kids involved on 2 fronts. 1, when all of us that have been politically involved are looking at the daisies, who will be making our democracy work? I'm concerned. I'm concerned. Because you will. Yeah, I got no problem with him at all. You're good. You're good to go. It's all of his peers that I'm concerned about, okay? If they are disinterested in politics, and here's what happens when the sensible center of the political spectrum checks out on politics. You turn the politics of our country over to the fringes on the left and the right, because they are politically engaged. They are passionate about their stuff. You show me a right to life voter, and I will show you a voter who is passionate about his or her politics. They believe this stuff, they know the politician's name, and they know their stance on the issues. Show me a liberal Democrat who's not smoking marijuana, and I'll show you somebody who's passionate. That usually gets a joke from the Kiwanis Club. Apparently none of you got that, okay? But they are passionate about their politics, and they are politically involved, and they know the issues. Now that's the right and the left. What about the masses in the middle? What about the masses in the middle? If we don't have intelligent people in the middle voting, one side or the other is going to control our politics. Now, I don't think, I wasn't there. I've covered politics a long time, but I was not covering the Constitutional Convention. But my guess is that's not how they wrote the Constitution. They wrote it in a much more inclusive manner, that everybody that could would participate. That's why this thing with our kids is so critical to our democracy. You can't lay this kind of philosophical thing on the kids because it won't mean squat until they maybe get a little later. You're 44, who's got the 44-year-old kid? Yeah. What's his name?
Nathan.
Okay, hey Nathan, wake up, man, okay? Get with the program here. This is important to them. Do you think he could get that?
Could get what?
Could he would understand why his vote is important? Why
He does now. He does more and more. I mean, the last couple of years.
What happened?
I've talked to him a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
That's what good mothers do. Where have you been, man? Have you helped out on this?
I've been working.
You've been, no, this is not her job alone. It's both, because with both of you talking to Nathan, that reinforces that, wow, I got the old man engaged here. Okay, he stopped working long enough to pay attention to me. This must be important. Are you with me or not?
Yes.
Okay, will you call Nathan and tell him that he's one, an idiot, and two, to get involved? No, don't tell him he's
in
an
a
idiot.
couple days, so. I'll
Yeah, okay,
call him.
all right. But you get where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
You do have power. You do, if you can just get them engaged. All right, so make those assignments, see how they do. Here's a question that I would ask. Let me see. Do you mind if I pick on you? Okay, good. I like that enthusiasm. If Governor, first of all, do you know who the governor is?
Yeah.
What's her name? Whitmer. Very good. I'm glad you didn't say Granholm. Bill Schuette called him Granholm, cost him the election. Not true. Nah, I know. I was going for a cheap joke, okay? It didn't, I know I'm in Schuette country, okay? I got it right. So if Gretchen Whitmer was here right now, what would you ask her?
I don't know. I don't really pay that much attention to like state legislature. I like more of like national news.
Okay, but you realize that the state legislature has a greater impact on your life than the Congress. Do you realize that? Because they do a lot of stuff. They determine how much money goes to your school. They determine all of these things we talked about earlier. They talked about should third graders be flunked for not reading. So there's a great impact there. All right, so bake something for me. She's standing here right now. So please, do you have a question?
Why did she run for governor, and like what are her reasons behind like her?
Very good. Excellent. That's a good question. And here's what she would tell you. Because I wanted to serve. And because, listen to this, I grew up in a family where my mom worked for Frank Kelly, a Democrat, and my daddy worked for a Republican, Bill Milliken. So I grew up in a bipartisan house. This is why she is banging this bipartisan thing so hard. She really believes this. She really believes that the system only works if we get everybody in the room from a variety of standpoints to try to work out a compromise. Okay? So that's a good question for the governor. I'll tell her that you said that, and she'll send you a note, I'm sure. But you're not old enough to vote. Scratch the note. All right? Okay? Not true. Ask your school, how many of you have a student council or had a student council? You guys got a student council in your school? Excellent, okay. And they hold elections? Yes? They do? Okay. Did you guys have student council when your kids were going to school? Did they participate? They did not. This is a great place to start. Look at, not every student is going to want to run for student council. It's about 10% is the number that usually is about the kids who are involved, but we need to give them an opportunity. But it also gives everybody else a chance to participate in the election of the student council. And this is where the rubber meets the road. I mean, this is, if we're talking about in high school, we're talking about what we serve at lunch, okay? My sister has a little girl who's 7 years old. The teachers came to her and said, we want you to run for student council. And Rooney said, I will. And then they said, you've got to collect petitions, signatures, in order to do it. Whoa, and Rooney did it. She got 50 and she paid for all of them. She had a PAC committee that went out and helped her. They knocked on doors and stuff, but she did it. And she was totally engaged. She was happy as a clam. And of course she got elected. What a great motivator. Okay, not all of the kids are going to do it, but the ones that do are the ones we want to start with. But it does get the whole student body involved. So if the school your kids went to didn't have a student council, they should have one. And they should have mock elections. Part of what I'm sharing with you tonight, my wife is a former 5th grade teacher, has taught social studies for 24 years. Oh, what a saint. You couldn't pay me enough to teach 5th graders anything, okay? I would not have the patience. But Gail did. She had mock elections. And they got the kids involved and they voted. She brought politicians into the classroom, actual live politicians to talk to the kids. I'm sorry to say that years ago, I was invited to talk to the government classes at the East Lansing High School and the Okemos High School, which are really, really gangbuster schools. They are absolutely great. And I stopped doing it. And you know why? It was an abject waste of my time. It was 45 minutes of me standing in the front of the room and the teacher in the back of the room talking to one another while the sea of vegetation in between us sort of waved back and forth. I could not connect with them if you gave me $1 million. It was sad. And I was sad to say that I'm not going to do it anymore, because it was a waste of my time. It really was. If I felt I was getting through to them, I need positive reinforcement too, even though I'm a schlubby journalist, okay? I'm just like you. It's nice to feel good about something. I got no good feelings out of that at all. And it hurts me to say that, because I think I have a responsibility because of what I do that. And I may go back and try again, but I'm not ready to do it yet, because it just, there was no connection. All right, so student council, get kids involved. What have I got here? I can't read my own writing. Go out with your kids and knock on doors for a politician. What a great experience, because you never know what's going to happen on the other side of that door. Now, they've gotten pretty sophisticated about this now, that you pretty much, they got cards now, and they got research, they can pretty much tell you who's behind that door, whether it's a supporter of the D party or the R party. They're sophisticated enough. And so if you're a D, you don't go to the R doors because it's a waste of time, all right? So we can weed those folks out. But there's still going to be stuff that happens at that door where you're going to have a dialogue between the politician or the helper and the kid can listen to this. Great teaching moment, okay? And you explain it, why do they go door to door? Do you know that if you're running for the Michigan House, in your Republican or Democratic caucus, they tell you that you're supposed to hit 20,000 doors before the election? Are you kidding me? You couldn't pay me enough. I will knock on one door, okay? But they have to do it. And so if you get engaged doing that, you say two things. One, this is important because I'm taking my time to do this. And two, it's important because I'm taking you with so you can see what's going on. And then afterwards, you talk about that experience, what was going on there. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to learn what people are saying, what's important to them, okay? And it's interesting in our politics today, it's sort of gotten pretty simple. We now have politicians running for office and winning on a single phrase. Think about it. What helped to get Gretchen Whitmer elected?
Fix the roads.
Fix the
The
damn
damn
roads.
roads, yeah.
Okay, there was a huge discussion in her campaign about that, whether to use dam or not. And at the end of the day, obviously, we know which side won, but it worked. Bill Schuette's line was, "I'll cut your taxes." Okay? It was an interesting thing. The comment in Lansing was, great theme for 1976, but not so much now, because if you looked at the polling data, rolling back taxes was number 8 on a 7-issue list, okay? It was not relevant. It did not resonate. And just a little insight into how politicians use you all by not asking questions. For example, and I'll pick on both of the candidates. Mr. Schuette did go around the state saying he would roll back your taxes. Did you ever hear a dollar amount as to how much the taxes would be rolled back? Did you ever hear one?
I did not.
Did anybody hear a number? Of course you didn't. You know what the number was? Let's just go right. Was it 300, 400? What do you think it was, man? If Bill Schuette was elected, your tax rollback would have been how much money?
I don't.
Just take a guess.
Individually?
Yes, individually.
Oh, probably less than $100.
Less than $100. What do you guess?
300.
300.
I think he's right.
Okay. Anybody 500? 600. How about 50?
That's what I think.
Yeah, $50. Did you know that?
I thought I heard something about, it was very small. I thought it was right around 50.
Yeah. Now, let's just think for a second. Why didn't Mr. Schutte want to tell you, you know where I'm going with this? Because if you find out that the tax break that the potential governor is offering is $50, which is not even $1 a week, that sort of takes the edge off of the tax cut thing, doesn't it? Just a skosh, just a little bit of thing there. He didn't want to tell you that because it would do that. We in the media did a lousy job of reporting that. I didn't get to Bill Schutte to ask him that question until a week before the election. And we went around the mulberry bush for about 6 minutes. And I kept asking the same question, and I kept getting the same answer, which was, he wasn't going to tell me. And he knew that I knew that he knew that I knew what the number was. And we didn't get anywhere. In fact, he was hacked at me for asking. And I said, Mr. Schutte, please, this is what I get paid to do, man. The good news for you is you've gone through a 12-week campaign, and this is the first time you've been cross-examined on the question. Gretchen Whitmer's not any better. She was going to fix the roads, but she never told you how much it was going to cost. Did she? Same reason Bill Schutte. And you know what? They got away with it. They got away with it. They were not held accountable. And nobody in the electorate knew. You should have known. And the media did a sloppy job of holding their feet to the fire to find out what the answer is, because that's what we're supposed to do, to give you information to make an intelligent vote. And that's why this is so important, that the media does have a role here, not only in the education of our kids in politics. They can look to us for some information, although we do not do a very good job of it. And here's the thing you have to be careful of with your kids as they go looking for news. If your child comes home and says they get their news from Facebook, send them to their room. Okay? That is not news. Right? Well, I have a better word for it, but we're in mixed company, okay? It's not even close. And here's the scary thing about information on the internet. Personal story. I can't remember what election cycle it was, but Ron Paul, now what was his old man's name? Was it Ron Paul was the dad? Yeah, okay. Ron Paul was running for president. The Republican Party had it was a cattle call. They had all of the Republican candidates up on the island for a gig. I was assigned by my TV station in Detroit to cover every one of them, and I did. Rudy Giuliani was there. My old buddy Mitt Romney was there. They are all there. So Ron Paul comes up the carriage to the front of the Grand Hotel, where the red carpet is, where everybody gets off and the horses do their business. It's a wonderful place. You'll love it. So I did 15 minutes with Ron Paul. He was very good. He was very good. He gave straight answers. He was understandable. He was engaging. He's all the stuff that you like in a candidate. So we finished up the interview. We went inside to the Grand Hotel where he was going to speak at noon. And so I took my cameraman and the producer in there, and in the Grand Hotel ballroom, the restaurant, were Ron Paul signs all over the place. They were everywhere. So I casually said to my cameraman, give me a shot of the room, do a setup shot, but quote, I don't want any Ron Paul crap. Okay? Innocent comment. My guy understood what he wanted, no signs in the thing. We do all the stories, we send it back to Detroit, everybody's happy as a clam. Skubick gets in his car and drives back home and checks his email. Houston, we got a problem. Someone was standing behind me when I said that with a tape recorder machine and put on the internet, I don't want any Ron Paul crap. Now that's not so bad, but here was the title page before that. Skubick censors Paul. Skubick censors Paul. Soundbite, I don't want any Ron Paul crap. There it is. I rest my case. Charged, convicted, shoot the guy. In the first week, 80,000 hits. My station called up, they said, Skubick, you got a credibility problem. I said, no You know what? They said, well, maybe we ought to respond. And I said, maybe we shouldn't. I, silly person that I am, actually wrote back to some of these people and tried to explain to them that I was not censoring Ron Paul, that I actually had done a 15-minute interview with him. I put him on the air along with everybody else, which is what we're supposed to do. And you know, out of the 100 responses that I sent out, do you know how many I got back that said, thank you for clarifying? Count them. 2. And one of them was a relative. And so I told the desk, I said, I'm not getting in this conversation. 1, it's a waste of my time. 2, their minds are made up and I ain't gonna change it because there it is. I don't want any Ron Paul crap. You know, don't confuse me with the facts. My mind is made up, and that's what passes for news and content in the real world. The next week it was 60,000 hits. And I just simply hunkered down and I said, you know what? Another shiny object will come along, and this will be history, but it's still on YouTube today. Go home tonight, put in Tim Skubick, Ron Paul, crap, and you can see it. Okay? It's still there, still resonating. Incredible. It was a teaching moment. Now, everywhere I go, I look behind me, and I see no camera there, so we're good, okay? But I do have one out there, and this guy's gonna go back and edit that and just take out, I don't want any Ron Paul crap, and then I'll be on the same thing again. If you put that on YouTube, I'll find out where you live, all right? All right, ooh, goodness gracious. What are we going till 8 o'clock? Okay, I'm done.
How's that any different than the national news media on either side, right? CNN, Fox, pick one, right? How's that any different with the soundbite that they use with their own headline?
Yep.
And then depending on which side of the aisle you're looking at.
Yeah.
They've got their 5 folks that sit around and support that point. How's that any different than what they're doing on Facebook?
All right,
How's that any different?
Okay, I will answer your question, but let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you think the news media is biased?
Do I think the news media?
That was the question. Is the news media biased?
I think that's an oversimplified question.
Most of mine are.
Do I think inherently, I don't necessarily think so. However.
There are enough qualifiers in that sentence to write an English book. Keep talking.
However.
Yes, right, exactly.
However.
I loved inherently.
You bring in the human factor.
The human factor.
And the fact that ratings sell ads.
Absolutely.
And so you go back to my point about it's not just that simple. So, having said that, S.E. Cup, I don't know if anybody follows her on Saturday nights now, but she is on CNN.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting there listening to her and that show, you would think she's very, very liberal.
Yep.
However, in reality, she's actually a registered Republican.
Okay, so back to my original question. Do you think the media is biased?
I think the ownership of the media is biased.
The ownership of the media is biased. All right, well then,
Thus
so in
its
other words.
Thus its employees do what they need to do to please the boss.
All right, let's get into the conspiracy theory of history. All right, so
Not a conspiracy
No,
theory.
well, work with me here. Okay, so if ownership is biased, are they sending signals down through the ranks to reflect that bias?
In any corporation, they do.
They do. Okay? How many people, raise your hand, believe the media is biased? Get your hands up. Be honest with me. Every hand should go up. Ma'am, get your hand up, okay? Be a believer, okay? Get your hand up, son. Good, there you go, you're good. I get this everywhere. I get this everywhere, and I understand it. I know where it comes from. Let me just for a second try to enlighten you. Dangerous thing to try, but I'm a dummy, let's give it a shot. Anybody remember John Engler? Controversial governor? Yeah. God love him. He was a full employment bill for me and everybody else in the press corps. By the way, it was fun to have him back at MSU.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. Well, just from the standpoint of seeing.
I know.
Yeah, that's it. And I appreciate your biased point of view, okay? All right. As they just came out, didn't they? Okay. All right, so we would have John Engler on our TV show. And I would ask him all of the tough questions that I could think of in the world. And here's what would happen afterwards. There would be 10 people that loved John Engler, and to a person, they would pull me aside and say, Skubick, by God, why were you so disrespectful to the sitting governor of the state of Michigan, asking him those asinine questions? Why did you do that? More respect for the governor. Then there were 10 people that were not fond of Big John, and here's what they would say. Skubick, why'd you let him off the hook? Huh? How come you didn't ask him the same questions that you asked him Milligan? How come you didn't do your job? The exact same program. Seen through what? Your selective perception. If you liked Engler, I'm an idiot. If you loved him, whatever. So, boys and girls, if there's a bias out there, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it. Work with me here. Think about it.
I'm trying to work with you.
I know you are, okay, and I'm gonna get you, all right? Because this is so solid, logical, that even you can get this, okay? I mean that, I do a cheap shot wherever I can. Here's the harsh reality. If I was a liberal Democrat or a staunch conservative Republican, I could not have survived in Lansing for 50 years. Why? Because one side or the other would have frozen me out. They would not have talked to me, and I couldn't do my job. I couldn't go back to my news director and say, you know, I wanted to get the other side of the story, but the guys wouldn't talk to me. And they said, well, that's great. You're out of here. Go sell pencils. Go do something else because we can't use you. And are there people in my business that are biased? You bet your booties, okay? Most of them are working at MSNBC and Fox, okay? In the mainstream media, in our Capitol Press Corps, you're gonna laugh, okay, but I believe the vast majority of the people in our press corps want to get this thing right. They do not have a political agenda. Do I have my own personal beliefs? You bet I do. But when that red light goes on, those are out the window. It's depending on who's sitting across from me. If I've got a consummate conservative sitting in that chair to be interviewed, I'm going to adopt the questioning maybe of a liberal Democrat to challenge them, to try to see what they think, and vice versa. If it's a liberal, I can become and if you only see one of those shows, of course Skubick is biased. But that's not the way it is. You can't survive in this business if you're biased. And when you're talking to your kids about this, please share this with them, okay? That they're the ones that are forming their opinions and making a judgment. And here's the other part of this, which is very important. One of the common criticisms that we get is, Skubick, why are you always telling us what to think? I'm not. I'm trying to get you to think. Huge difference. I want to get you engaged. I want to get your kids engaged. I want them to think about this stuff. I want you to cast an intelligent vote. Let me tell you what I did years ago. I did town hall meetings before the election. I started out in Ironwood in July for obvious reasons, okay? Do you get that? Thank you, all right? And what I did is I asked at this time, this is probably 2 months before the election, before the general election. The ballot has been set. The candidates are in print. And I asked them to write down the names of the candidates running for Secretary of State, Attorney General, and the Supreme Court. And here's some of the answers that I got. For Secretary of State, Richard Austin. Richard Austin was Secretary of State. At the time I asked the question, Dick was dead. Dick was dead. Attorney General, of course they wrote down Frank Kelly, okay? He was Attorney General, he wasn't at the time, he wasn't dead, but he was not the candidate. They didn't know. Here's the one I love, Supreme Court, Soapy Williams. Soapy Williams was on the Supreme Court, but at the time I asked the question, he was with Dick. They were both dead. And I sort of looked at this audience because I was startled by it. It's the first time it had happened, and I thought, oh my God, have we got a problem here, okay? I said, boys and girls, how are you all going to cast an intelligent vote in 2 months if you don't even know the names of the candidates, let alone what they stand for? And they had no answer. Because there is no answer. They weren't engaged. And that's the majority. It's still going on today. Okay, it's still going on today. So we got a problem. And the news media is part of it because we're not doing a very good job of reporting on politics. We aren't. We've lost our way. The major goal of journalism now is to make more money. That's why they closed down the networks, all of the foreign news bureaus. I always love this when they have a guy or a lady from Boston reporting on the civil strife in Syria. How do they do that? Do they have a telescope that reaches from Boston to Syria where they can look in on air? They can't. By definition, the quality of the news is for crap, okay, because they're not there. But they shut down all the bureaus because they saved money, and they put it in the bottom line. And so journalism has lost its way. We have. It's all about making money and not doing our responsibility, our due diligence to be a stand-in for you. And when you talk to your kids about the news media's role in politics, tell them to be aware of that not everybody's doing a decent job at this. Yes?
Just a quick on that, because you've obviously been there for 50 years. The news media was essentially disintegrating, at least it looks like it from the outside in. There's not as many reporters. The two major Detroit papers have gone the way of the dodo bird. A lot of people sit in a cubicle and do their news off of news releases and things of that nature. So, I mean, you're talking about as if they have a choice. A lot of this is just economics, and this is, for whatever reason, a dying industry.
Yes.
So how do you, you're talking about the importance that your profession in particular plays in this, in our need to have a good civil discourse, and yet it's essentially disintegrating before our very eyes. So how do we solve that problem? I mean, we're talking about how do you get people engaged, how do you get people willing to pay for news anymore, because nobody seems to be willing to do it.
Let me add one other terrible thing that's going on. If you go into any one of the major newsrooms, let's see, do you guys have a light board in your newsroom of the stories that are getting hits? Good for you. Don't do it. At M Live, the Detroit News, the Free Press, in the newsroom, up on the wall, are a series of all the stories that are in the paper. And after the stories are all of the hits on the internet of people reading those stories. Now work with me here, all right? My guess is the controversial, off-the-wall, blue dress story is getting a boatload of hits. The stuff on the governor's budget, not so much. And so what's the insidious implication there? If we want eyeballs on our paper, or if we want butts in our seat watching TV, we're going to play to the lights. Huge, huge problem. That stuff getting lots of hits has nothing to do with our democracy, but it has everything to do with the bottom line. My point is underscored again. We've lost our way. It's all about making money. And until we realign that, the answer to your question is we don't fix it. In 10 years or less, the Detroit News and Free Press as we know it today will no longer exist. And to the large extent, social media is responsible, okay? And when all of us who are still reading the newspaper are dead and gone, the young people coming up are not. That's why through atrophy they will disappear. Huge problem there, because the newspaper is the place where you can go a little bit in depth as to what's going on. On TV news, not so much. How long do you get for an average story every night?
Let's see, our average news story goes about maybe a minute 20.
A minute 20, wow. You pack a lot of information in that, don't you?
We try.
No, that's not the answer, okay? You, by definition, you can't put a lot of information in there, right? No, you can't. So here's the problem, do the math. It used to be, in the good old days, and I hate that term, but you would see a story on the TV news and then you would go to your newspaper to actually find out what the heck was going on. And now, we aren't doing that, and so we're stuck with whatever crap we get on the TV, which we know is superficial to begin with, and people are not paying attention to it anyway. And remember, we're closing down all the bureaus and we don't have people covering this stuff, so we're in a perfect storm here, which is not going to be solved. So the answer is, if I knew the answer to that, I would not be standing here. okay?
Right, well, I mean, how about this, for parents then, and I have my answers for it, but what would be the top 3 news sources for a teenager that you would recommend? I have a couple that I consider off limits to my kid, and I say, if you ever quote me something from there, we're gonna have a talk, but otherwise,
Yeah.
go out and find your own news.
All right, well, here's the Bible, and I do not mean that in a derogatory, anti-religious way, but the Bible in our town are the 2 newsletters. One is called Mirrors News, and the other is called Gongwer News. These are in-house organ. Do you know about these? How do you know? How do you know they exist?
She's a political junkie.
Really? Well, obviously it is. Tell me, seriously, help me. This is research. How did you know they existed?
I work for the Midland Business Alliance, and this is part of what we do.
You better be reading that.
Yeah.
Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Why? All of the lobbyists read it. All of the lawmakers read it. All of the players read it. All the people that need to know, they are very smart about this stuff. And why is it those 2 publications? Because they do not have the limitations of selling advertising. You pay them about $2,200 a year to have their staff report the news to you, but it's good stuff. Trust me, everybody reads it because it's there and it's comprehensive. So if you all pool your resources and somebody get 1 copy, you're not supposed to do this, and make copies and share. I'm not suggesting you break the law by doing that, but there are those 2 news sources that are there, okay? I would recommend our off-the-record TV programs, shameless self-promotion. Give me a half hour a week, and I'll give you the best inside information I can give you, what's going on in the Capitol. We'll bring on guests and ask them tough questions. It's the only public affairs show in the entire state of Michigan that is doing this. It's at WKAR.org. And if you're having trouble sleeping at night, we can have you sleeping within 10 minutes, okay? But give me a half hour a week, and there's stuff there. I do read the news in the free press. The guys in the Capitol Press Corps will tell you they have trouble getting their copy in the paper, okay, because it's not popular. The consultants have said people don't care about politics, so why should we cover it? No, journalism says that's what we do. The democracy depends on us to cover this stuff, to give you good information. And minus that good information, you're kind of at a loss. You're not going to spend $2,200 for the Gongwer News Report or the Mirrors newsletter, but everybody that needs to know does know. To which brings me to a point. I think we are headed for an informational segregation. We have economic segregation, we have racial segregation, and we also have an information haves and have-nots. And if that isn't dangerous to democracy, I don't know what is.
So getting back to your point about the question dodging from Schutte and Whitmer. Neither of them gave you great answers, but you don't carry a hammer now to make them pay a price. And I'm going to talk about the media, not just you.
Sure.
But the media writ large, if I don't go to the free press and I don't subject myself to a 3-hour board of editors or whatever, or if I don't do that at the news, there's no consequence to it anymore because the readership numbers are garbage. And so you can have a superficial campaign where you do go through and you do pull a poll-tested slogan, and you're just essentially having battles of the consultants. So, you know, this problem that you're explaining, I don't know if it's all on us, if it's on whatever, the point is it's mutually reinforcing, and I'm not seeing a great way to get the civil engagement that we're looking for, because it's really hard for you to do your job without a hammer, without people needing to be subjected to that.
I agree. But you folks do have power. You just don't use it. Did anybody ever go to a rally with a Bill Schutte or a Gretchen Whitmer or a town hall meeting? I love town hall meetings. Oh, they're so wonderful. Rick Snyder loved town hall meetings. He never got a tough question in his life. Nobody ever went to a town hall meeting and hit him between the eyes with a question that he didn't ask. That's why I loved him. He said, Skubick, I could do town hall meetings. I said, I know why. You haven't been challenged, okay? And he said, well, I love town hall meetings, okay? But you have a responsibility too, okay? You're not in a vegetative state. You get to ask a question, okay? Did anybody, when you were thinking about this camp, say to yourself, geez, I wonder how much that tax cut is? My guess is you probably didn't. Or said, I wonder how the heck she's going to pay for the roads. She's still looking, by the way, okay? We didn't ask. So, you know what? I'll take part of the blame.
It's not a blame as much as...
No, it is a blame. It is because we're lazy. we're lazy, okay? You are, I am, okay? It's easier not to do it. It's easier not to get engaged, and that's why we are at peril. That's why this is important tonight, to get your kids so that they are engaged, so that they try to get it, okay? All right, I got a couple other things. I don't want to sound too defeatist. I think there's some hope, but it rests with all of us saying to our TV stations, for example, and this will sound boastful, and I don't mean it that way, but here's the harsh reality. You are looking right now at the only full-time television and radio reporter in the entire state of Michigan who is covering the Capitol. And I've seen my work. We're in trouble. But you get my point?
Yeah.
There's nobody else on TV or radio covering the entire state of Michigan. That's it. And I'm lucky because I found 3 entities that were willing to pay me to do it. Channel 2 in Detroit, Channel 6 in Lansing, and God bless public television. In 1970, when I started out with them, they said, Skubick, we want to hire you to cover politics. I said, I'm in. When Channel 2 called up and said, we want you to cover politics, I sat down with the news director and I said, Dana, I don't do murders. I don't do car accidents. I don't do this or that. And she said, we don't want you to do that. We want you to do politics. I'm in. Same way with Channel 6. That's 3 entities out of all of the TV and radio stations we have in the state that are making a commitment to covering the Capitol, and you wonder why you can't find out what's going on. There it is in a nutshell. We in my business are not doing our job, but you have the power to change that. Call up your local station and say, hey, how come you guys don't cover the Capitol? How come you don't send somebody down? We got a new governor, we got a new speaker, we got a new majority, we got a whole new game. How come you aren't covering that? See what they say to you. See what they say. I would be interested in hearing that response.
See it in a half an hour a week.
Well, that's the best we got.
That's right.
Okay? And I'll even come to your home and do the show if you want us to. Okay? We can work out a price. All right. A couple other quick things before we wrap it up. Take your kids to a city council meeting. Don't stay for the whole thing. Why are you laughing back there? All right, who's on the city council? Nobody? All right, come on, give me some feedback. Why did you guys laugh?
I was the city manager for 10 years here.
Exactly. All right, so let me pick on you, man. All right, okay. So did you ever have any kids come to your city council?
Yes, all of them.
Kid, really?
Yeah.
Did you make them go?
The school made them go.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Get your school to get the kids to go to a city council meeting. They don't have to stay for the whole thing, okay, because they go on, it's probably still going on, right? You've left and the meeting's still going on. But get them involved and use it as a teaching moment. There's stuff sitting out there that you all can do if you just think creatively. So it's a great place to go. And there's nothing like local city politics. I mean, it's just awful, and we love it, okay? Because there's a lot of controversy, and controversy is not bad. Disagreements are not bad. In fact, that's part of what the democracy is. We don't all agree on everything, and we shouldn't. But everybody ought to get a fair opportunity to make their point, and then we try to sit in the room. And this governor is trying to do this and give her credit and give the Speaker of the House, a Republican, and the Senate Republican leader, give them credit. They are actually trying to do this. They are meeting once a week in what's called the quadrant meetings. The 2 Republican leaders, the 2 Democratic leaders, and the governor get in the same room together, and they talk to one another. Oh my God, isn't this wonderful? Okay, Mr. Snyder didn't do that too much. Ms. Granholm didn't do too much. It actually started with Bill Milliken, because he had a divided government. And it was pretty good stuff. They made mistakes, but so give these guys credit that they're willing to try it. They need positive reinforcement on that, because if they're going to make any movement forward to make our state better, it'll happen right in that room. Because the leadership sets the tone. They don't always dictate on what to do, but at least it has a starting point. So do city council. And there are lots of issues. Tell your kids, look, at city council impacts the following things: playgrounds, ice skating, running paths, speed limits in school districts that we talked about, the drinking water. I like this one. How about pets in your backyard? Isn't that a great one for the kids? Mom, can we put a pig in our backyard? Huh? What a great story. Well, let's find out. Is there an ordinance again? What's an ordinance, Mom? What's an ordinance, Dad? Okay, it's a rule, okay? And if you break the rule, you go to timeout or jail, your choice, okay? But there's a great issue to follow up on, okay? In addition to that, ask your kids, and I like this one, because this is where you really get into the kid's head. How do you feel about this? Some of the best questions to reveal what's going on in your child's head or your friend's head is, how do you feel? I asked Governor Whitmer when she spoke, how many people saw the State of the State? Anybody see it? Very good. I asked that question this morning and 3 hands went up. Okay, so thank you for watching. That anchor guy, by the way, is pretty good, isn't he? Anyway, I said to her before the speech, I said, you've seen 3 governors give State of the State messages, okay? And I said, what did you learn from watching them? Okay, and she was very good. She had this answer on the tip of her tongue. She said, I learned to not treat legislators as my employees. Okay, and why is that an important answer? Because it reinforced that they are partners in this together. It was a reference, I believe, to Rick Snyder, who was a consummate CEO. And she watched and thought that he treated the legislature like employees, not first-class citizens. So I thought that was very, so ask your kids, how do you feel about it? Nathan now is totally engaged?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, but more so than he used to be.
How do you know?
Well, he lives in Wisconsin, and.
We'll forgive him for that,
Yeah.
okay?
And anyway.
He must be in Madison.
No, he was around Green Bay.
Same difference.
And my husband and I became very involved in working on Proposal 2 in Michigan.
Was that redistricting?
Yes.
Wow.
And we got really fired up and passionate about it. So
Why?
Every time.
Why?
Well, because I think it represents bringing a fairness to our voting system.
Whether you agree with this issue or not, the beauty of this movement was there were 4, how many volunteers do you think there were?
I think there were 5,000 at least.
Yeah, and they were all working the farmer's market, right among the rutabagas and the kumquats, okay? They were out there getting names. It was a beautiful example of democracy in action. These people were passionate. You don't have to agree with them, but by God, you better give them credit for getting off their butts and getting in the game. And it worked for them. They didn't pay for signatures.
We did not.
They
Even
did
though
not.
some of our local politicians tried to say that we did.
Yeah, but no, and I gotta tell you, the guys on the panel, when this started out, I was stupid enough to say they'll never get this done because it's too complicated for people to understand.
I think I remember seeing you, watching you say that.
You know, when I said that, I was afraid that she would say that, but good, because I was wrong.
You had to keep it simple.
I was
You
wrong.
had to keep the message simple.
Exactly,
Yeah.
you do. So,
But anyway, back to my son.
Yes.
You know, in Wisconsin, they've had the same issues going on.
sure, it's in the courts.
Yeah, it's in the courts. So, you know, the more I explained to him about what we were doing and, you know, we were canvassing, we were petitioning, and how fired up we were about it, and how it's going on in Wisconsin, he got more and more interested in that, and I think he's more engaged now. The trouble is, just one little thing, when I think about, I feel as passionate about wanting to get young people involved as you do, and I really hope we can, but the young married folk, like my son, and you know, having young children, today these kids are in such jobs that are so stressful and so demanding of their time. I know that he and his wife spend so much time, you know, working, and then with 2 kids that I think they really don't feel they have the time to give the attention to learn what's going on politically in their state and in their country. And I know a lot of other friends I have will just say, I don't know what's going on, I don't have time, and I don't care.
Isn't ignorance a beautiful thing?
Yeah.
It's so easy. You don't have to think, you don't have to engage anything, and if everybody thought that, we would all, and this is where we're headed.
Right. Yeah, that's what I think
Yeah.
our society has kind of built that problem in to unto itself today.
But it's not an excuse for not participating. And I understand it. I know you are all busy, and I'm so pleased tonight that you would come out so we could have a little dialogue on this. But as I said at the beginning, where is the rest of the unwashed? Okay, where are they? Okay, they're doing whatever they're doing. That's why I said 15 minutes with your kids. Just 15 minutes. If you could squeeze out 15 minutes, that's a win. Okay, and I think over time, that will reinforce what we're going for, which is the bottom line here, which is this is important. This is important to our democracy, to our country, and to all of us individually, because to the extent that we get lousy government, it affects all of us. To the extent that we can improve it by getting more participation, that's a win for everybody. So let me thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. WKAR.org, give me a half hour, no charge, okay? Do it on your home computer, because public television is always pledging. You can't find our show, all right? Get a glass of white wine, because that's what public TV people do when they watch, and it'll actually make us look more intelligent, okay? Thank you for everybody showing up. Have a good night. A fundraiser, here we go. Now, here's the real reason we got you.
Here's the real reason he's
Yes,
here.
yeah.
But we want you to pick a winner that can win 2 tickets to the event. It's gonna be a
Okay,
fun time.
what's the event?
It's a Mardi Gras feast. It's next Thursday, the 28th, 5:30 to 8:30 over at Great Hall.
All right.
Oh, I've been there, that's really good. The food there is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
6 and 7/8. That's a hat size, okay? That was, you know, the Kiwanis thought that was funny this morning, okay? They are still rolling in the aisles, okay? Well, some work and some don't. Martin, Brennan. There he is.
There you go.
Friend Marty.
2 tickets.
The only one, sweetheart, okay?
Thank you so much.
All right, be careful going home, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Lousy weather tomorrow. God bless you all. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Let me go grab those for you real quick.
All right, cool. Good, 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 good.
You paid attention to like.
Oh, I'm glad to do it. I often say,
Yeah, there you go. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.
Well, I love your.
I tell you.
Yeah, I remember you from the last time. Yeah.